Amazing.
Inspiring.
Wonderful. Awesome.
Incredible.
Challenging. But if I can add a second word, I would say rewarding too.
Fulfilling.
Exciting. People, getting to know people.
Flexible would be the word.
Phenomenal.
Rewarding.
It would be sharing. Transformative.
Ambitious.
It was great.
I think eye-opening.
Excellent. Fruitful. Enriching.
Enriching.
Empowering.
Enlightening.
Enlightening.
Pretty enlightening. No words really. It's incredible. It's an incredible day. Just glad to be here.
Hooray. Thanks, Scarlett. I just wanted to give an extra special shout out to the Museum Studies program at the Harvard Extension School, of which I am an alum. If we have any other alums, feel free to give a shout out. It's nice to see everybody. I can't tell if people are still coming on. I guess we're just going to start. Does that make sense, Scarlett? Cool, thanks. Hey, everybody, this is Fresh Ideas for Futurist Fundraisers. A totally different session than what we had planned. But look at us, we're pivoting and here we are. We're excited to have you with us. We're going to just be doing some quick introductions today. There are 5 of us on the panel and a whole mess of you. So what we're gonna do is just give a short introduction, and as we do so, please yourself, say in the chat box who you are, where you're calling from, and we're also doing COVID silver linings. I'm gonna go first. Hello, everybody, I'm Marieke. I'm the executive director of the Cambridge Historical Society. The Historical Society, where I'm calling you from here, is on the traditional lands of the Massachusetts people. My COVID silver lining is, hear me out, masks. Sure, they're terrible, but we should have been wearing them all the time, let's be honest. So now we're getting used to it. They cover your face when you're cold, so that's good. And 3, you can shout at people who are not wearing masks and they can't really hear you because your face is covered. So that covers that up. I'm going to shoot over to Dawn.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dawn Salerno. I am the executive director at the Rotch-Jones-Duff House and Garden Museum. And I would like to honor the traditions and peoples indigenous to the lands now known as New Bedford, the Wampanoag, which is where I am zooming to you from. My COVID silver lining is that COVID's been a great excuse for just about everything. So, you know, oh, sorry, I can't make it, you know, social distancing, or, gee, you know, we really need more funding for that thing, you know, COVID, or, you know, changing an operation you've been meaning to make, like, oh, I really think we should be locking the door to the offices so that people don't just wander in, you know, COVID. So that's my silver lining for what's been going on. So I will kick the ball over to Doug Perkins.
Thanks, and I'm going to hope that my video holds. I've got 2 other people in the house who are like gaming, and I've told them to get off the Wi-Fi, but that may or may not happen. So good morning. Hi, I'm Doug Perkins. I'm Associate Director for Operations and Finance at the Middlebury College Museum of Art in Vermont. COVID silver lining. Normally I do believe in silver linings. I don't, however, want to risk glossing over right now the profoundly negative impacts that this pandemic and the lockdowns have had on a great many people. So in lieu of a silver lining, I want to give a shout out to all of the museum people out there who, like me, struggle every day with just trying to put forth some basic semblance of productivity and to keep themselves from falling apart. If that or some version of that describes you, then please know that you're not alone. I'm happy to talk. Reach out if you feel that would be necessary or useful, and I'm sure there are other people who would be happy to talk as well. You'll find no judgment here. And land acknowledgement, I would ask that we pause to acknowledge that Middlebury College, my employer, sits on land which has served as a site of meeting and exchange among Indigenous peoples since time immemorial. The Western Abenaki are the traditional caretakers of these Vermont lands and waters, which they call Ndakina, or homeland. We remember their connection to this region and the hardships they continue to endure. Let us take a moment of silence to pay respect to the Abenaki elders and to the indigenous inhabitants of Turtle Island, past and present. We give thanks for the opportunity to share in the bounty of this place and to protect it. We are all one in the sacred web of life that connects people, animals, plants, air, water, and earth. Thank you. And I'll kick it to Pilar.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Pilar Garro, and I'm the Director of Development at the House of the Seven Gables here in Salem. I'm at my home today, but it's about like 5 blocks away. So I'm honoring the traditional lands of the Namkeg people. And COVID silver lining for me has been just connecting with folks. I have about 8 friends from college many years ago, and we've been Zooming every 2 weeks. We've been texting throughout the election. So it's been just a nice way to catch up with folks. And then I will throw it to Kristina Durocher. Oh, Kristina, unmute.
Sorry about that. So Kristina Durocher, Director of the Museum of Art at the University of New Hampshire. And I am zooming in from Indigenous lands, Nakina, the traditional ancestral homeland of the Abenaki, Pennacook, and Wabanakis people, past and present. We acknowledge and honor with gratitude the land and waterways and the Alnobac people who have stewarded Nakina through the generations. And in terms of a COVID silver lining, I would echo Pilar in saying that it's been an opportunity to spend time with my family and friends, particularly outdoors, which has been really nice through these difficult times.
Right on. Thanks, everybody. What smart people we have all around us here today. So just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Today's event is going to be in 3 parts. Part 1 is we're just going to introduce some of the topics and discuss how we've handled them at our institutions. Then we're going to go into breakouts, and Scarlett's going to help us with that. We're going to be randomized. It's all going to go perfectly fine and really fun. And we're going to meet you on the other side over there. And one of us will be moderating, facilitating in there. And then we're going to all come back and talk about what we learned and shared and what we thought was interesting, because the point of this session is to get ideas, share what we've done. We're all having to think on our feet. This is unprecedented, et cetera, et cetera. What can we learn from each other? And how can we apply that going forward? So there's a lot of smart minds here. Let's use them. This is as you know, a virtual conference. This is weird. This whole thing is weird. And we just want to acknowledge it's weird. It's quirky. It's not right. It's not the same. We're doing our best. So thank you. Whatever you have to do your best is cool. We want to communicate with you. The good news is we can see your faces. And if you want to unmute, just like raise your hand and say, I want something to say. We'll all be talking in the breakout rooms. But when we come back, it'll be better if people want to share out. So that's all great. We want to hear everybody's voices. Also, though, feel free to chat, use the chat box, Q&A, and all of that. Kristina's going to be monitoring that for us. So she'll pop in with interesting questions and comments. So we have a resource guide that we've started. Dawn put the links in a thing in one of these boxes that you'll find. And that is a document that when we go to breakout rooms, we are going to be typing our notes directly in it. So if you could not type in it right now, that'd be great, because you can imagine 100 people in a Google Doc is not ideal. But that's going to be, just bookmark it, whatever. Feel free to throw resources in after the fact. But anyway, all the information is going to be gathered there, so don't feel like you have to type and write everything down. Any questions? And my fellow panelists, anything else that we need to talk about before we get started?
I will just remark that if you're new today to this whole format, your chat field is not in this Zoom. The chat field is actually in the WOVA platform. So you can have this Zoom screen open, but then you need to have the WOVA screen open as well to view our chat and Q&A fields. So you'll find that document link there in the chat, and also our Q&A. That's where you can interact and introduce yourselves.
This is so fun. We're not going to do this next year. We're going to be a person. We're not going to have to do this. All these new skills that we've learned, we'll apply them somewhere. Great. All right. Now we're gonna launch into our 5, unless anybody else had anything else they want to say. No, great. All right, so we identified, Doug, was that a hand?
Yeah, I just want, from my experience, so the sessions have to end on time, and if we don't end right on time, like seriously within like 2 minutes of the ending, all of a sudden the next person will log into the next session and it'll kick us out, and we'll just like mid-sentence. So just know that that's coming at 10:45. But if we're still chatting, you can still chat and pose Q&A in the Whova app, even after the session ends.
Yeah, we've got till 12:15. We're good. Eyes on the prize there, everybody. Cool. All right. So we've identified 5 topic areas with a bonus that we thought that it would be good for us to just cover, kind of the big ones: corporate giving, membership, events. That's a big one we want to talk about. Annual appeal, micro/targeted philanthropy, doing like Facebook, GoFundMe, that kind of thing. And then bonus grants. So we thought we'd launch in with perhaps what might be the easiest, corporate giving. I'd love for anybody to say, raise your hand if your corporate giving was on track or above, because I can't imagine that happened for anybody. Corporate was especially hard this year. I know ours was down at least 50%, and we attribute that to having to cancel our fundraising event, which is a main way for us to get sponsorships. And then also just the small businesses saying, last year it was a struggle. Can't even imagine what they're going through this year. So curious to my fellow panelists. I'm going to see if anybody else has anything they want to say. Kristina?
Yeah, I would say, so we had launched a corporate giving program last year with the support from our board of advisors. It was just beginning when we put out our renewal calls in the fall, with follow-up reminders in, I think, January, February. And the response that we got back in the spring, of course, with COVID, that everybody wanted to wait, see what happened. It was very early on in the pandemic. And ultimately, as a board, we recognized that businesses were really hurting, and we did not receive the solicitations that we had, the responses that we had hoped for. So to recognize their past support, we rolled over their support for another year so that they would still receive acknowledgements for their prior year's commitment. And we felt that we could do that and offer those benefits really at very little cost to us, but it was sort of a goodwill showing. Additionally, I will say that I serve on the board as president of the Association of Academic Museums and Galleries, and we're putting together our virtual conference, which includes sponsorship. And so what we're finding is that as everything has moved virtual, businesses and companies are looking for ways to be able to be putting themselves in front of our clients, our members. And so the video that we saw at the beginning of that's the kind of opportunities they're looking for. So for those of you who are moving your programs online and exhibitions, you may want to think about what kinds of opportunities you're providing your sponsors for that video, for that kind of outreach. Like what kind of benefits? You may want to rethink your benefits package a little bit. Like, are you more than just putting a logo on something, but are you allowing them to present a video sort of at the beginning? I know there's some states that might have rules around advertising versus sponsorship. But again, in my role at the Association of Academic Museums and Galleries, we're trying to be creative with how we expand that idea of sponsorship into our virtual programs. And the other thing I will say is that some of the responses that we've got is just beyond a one-time thing. So for some of you who might be typically getting sponsorships for an exhibition or a gala, if you are putting together series or webinars and kind of can package or bundle any of your activities, that's another opportunity where you might be able to get sponsorship. That's what, at least what we found with AAMG. I kind of feel like we're cheating here because Scarlett's on, and Scarlett's done an amazing job with NEMA sponsorship, so we should give.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was like,
I know, so Scarlett, mute yourself.
I mean, we just saw this in action, Scarlett. We just saw this video. I was like, well, I'm a graduate. Like I tied it all together. So curious, Scarlett, what's your experience been with convincing sponsors to come on?
Well, yeah, so similar to Kristina's experience with AAMG, I think the kind of bundle packages have been really successful and a really great way to kind of put viewers and attendees in contact with sponsors and exhibitors. And I think another really great thing that we're seeing with at least our Whova platform is those live streams. So if you go to any of the exhibit booths, you can kind of interact that way. So that face-to-face, as we're making this virtual pivot, is really important. So yeah, I think it's definitely good to get folks interacting, and that's what the tag lunches are really great for too.
Okay, making the best in the virtual world. Don, Pilar, Doug, anything you want to add about corporate?
I'll jump in. So at our museum, we don't have a very active corporate membership program, but I'll just remark on corporate sponsorships. So I wonder if, you have to be sensitive to the industry right now. So some people, a lot of local businesses were really not in a good place and still aren't in a good place. And we, to not be tone deaf, to be respectful, we stopped all fundraising or even asking for auction items. Some of you planning events and you want to have like a virtual auction. Our committee was immediately like, in March, no, let's not ask for anything. We can't ask for caterers to discount anything. We can't. So we're still kind of approaching things that way. But there are other industries that may not have been harmed. And like, for example, our insurance industry underwrote our fall virtual event. They did not, on the other hand, underwrite the event last year when it was in person. So not only are they probably not harmed economically right now, but they are also looking to do more, realizing that everyone, nonprofits especially, are kind of struggling. So the other sponsorship, real estate right now doing really well in most places. So we had a couple of real estate sponsors. So that's my little tip, is look to the businesses that are doing okay, but be sensitive to those that are not.
Pilar.
I'll jump in as well and say, similar to Don, our corporate membership program is not really happening, but we did have an event, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, but we've had great sponsors this year. We had about $35,000 in sponsorship. And as Don is saying, you have to really be sensitive to the industry. So I was going to say insurance agencies as well. I'd also say banks. So look at all your local banks, and they often have forms online that you can apply for. They've been really receptive. And then I would also say construction companies are good as well. So just a couple of things to look into. But we were really lucky with the support we got. We had much less donors than we have had in the past, probably half as many, but they gave at higher levels.
How did you make that compelling to give more?
So it's interesting. So we, again, changed the benefit package. So again, like Dawn, I had a committee and we were like, don't ask anybody anything. So it was things were on hold for a little while, but I sort of changed it to add sort of like what we just saw, video ads. So we actually have a video. I have it on the resource page of what we did and what we showed for our quote unquote event. In the beginning, I have, so we had 4 sponsors at a higher level, and at that level, they could have a 30-second ad. So we did that. We sort of bookended it with 2 banks. So one was at the beginning and one was at the end. And I think it was of value to them as well.
Mm-hmm. Cool, Kristina.
Yep. So in the chat, we have a comment from Eric Dougal, who is a corporate sponsor for this event. So thank you very much, Eric. And echoing that, he's really making the point that sponsors are looking for the return on investment. So making sure that you are really able to perhaps quantify or qualify what it is that you're offering people and thinking through those benefits, I think would be really important to be able to explain to any business that you might approach. Thank you very much, Eric, for that comment.
Right on. Anybody else have any comments? Again, feel free to toss them in. Doug?
I just add really quickly. I mean, Middlebury College, that we're really, our museum is not really, technically we're allowed to have corporate sponsorships, but we're discouraged from going after them because the development office usually prefers to hoover all that money for, undesignated other things. We have one, I'm going to classify it as a corporate sponsor, even though it's technically it technically falls under grants, but the relationship is not the same. It's more, this is a parent of a former intern who runs a foundation in New York City, and we've been able to go to them on a fairly regular basis and get some sizable funding from them. They support a fellowship, a graduate fellowship that we have, and that fellowship was supposed to end June 30. We were able to go back to them and say, hey, it would be great if we could extend this a year. And they said, sure. And so if for any of you who are, who have a parent organization, for example, if you're at a college or university where you're under a hiring freeze, we were able to go to the administration and say, we have this money that can be used in fiscal year 21, and it can only be used for this specific position. And they said, okay, fine. It's basically use it or lose it. You can go ahead and you can hire that person for another year. So we got a fabulous graduate fellow who has been knocking it out of the park for us for another year, and it's huge. She has amazing digital skills and video creation skills and whatnot, and she's been a huge boon in this environment. So if you're looking for ways to add staff when you're otherwise under a hiring freeze, I would say go that direction.
Cool, thanks. I'm going to transition us talking to membership, and I thought it was very interesting. Dawn, you said it, Pilar, you echoed it, this idea of you got to be respectful in this climate, right? And what happened this year. And I'm just so curious, as fundraisers, we're always told you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Like the gift you don't give is the one you didn't ask for, right? So how are we tackling that? How are we feeling that? So I'm moving us into a discussion about membership. And how we've dealt with membership, understanding what people are going through, not knowing what people are going through. I assume we've changed over the course of the year, but I'd love to get everyone's thoughts. So I'm gonna, Pilar, I'm gonna call on you first.
Sure. So membership has been tricky for us this year. I would say, as many of you, we have had less benefits to offer with being closed for a while. Not having in-person programs. We are actually at the House of the Seven Gables, we have been offering a gardens and grounds experience. So we're not even taking people into the house. We're starting that this weekend, but so it's really been a harder sell. So you're always going to have your hardcore members who are really involved and with you because of your mission, but you're also going to have those members who are transactional. So they're looking to get a bargain, a deal if they're coming to visit with their family. So we definitely took a loss there, I would say. We're starting to get people back. And as we are heading into our winter months, we're actually putting together a series of member programs in person, small, so socially distant. So we're doing different one a month based on our collection, based on our mission. We just finished an archives processing, inventorying, digitizing project, which was funded by NEH. So we'll have people talk specifically about a project to members. So we're really starting to bring some of those benefits back for the month of December. Members can come and shop in our store and get 30% off for the year. So it's really trying to be now creative about inviting people back. And I think we're starting to see an uptick. And I would say the biggest thing is just be in touch with your members. Communication is key. If you fall, this is in all aspects that we'll talk about today. If you are not top of mind to them, they won't think about you. So I would say for membership, for us, it's all about communication and being transparent and really trying to figure out what you can do with your resources right now.
How does your membership and your annual fund interface?
So we definitely have members that give annual fund gifts. We have members that don't. We have annual fund supporters who are members. We have annual supporters fund supporters or not. We offer, for those who give an annual fund gift of $500 or more, they actually get a membership, a household level membership. And we'll talk about this in the annual appeal, but we will do a segmented letter specifically for members who are not donors this year to give to the annual appeal.
Mm-hmm. What's your messaging around membership? Just now, all y'all want to know, but if you don't have benefits to give, what are you telling your members?
I can jump in if you want.
Yeah.
Membership is a big one for us. I mean, it's we bring in annually $28,000 a year through membership, and we segment it so 4/5 of that goes toward acquisitions, and 1/5 goes to sport events and education, that kind of thing. So it's an important avenue for us. But we realized early on, and fortunately, I should say, for fiscal year 20. Fortunately, most of our memberships are in hand by early March. There are only a few that trickle in after that. So for COVID, when it hit, it didn't affect last year too badly. This year's a different story. We realized going forward, we're probably not going to get a whole lot of renewals, or we assumed we would get none, and we decided we'll go from that. And so we use this as an opportunity to say we're going to make everybody a free member. So basically anybody, and I see that Deanna Whitwalker, am I pronouncing that right? I really hope I am. Has asked this question in the chat. We are extending membership. So if you were a member last year, we're extending that at the same level you were at for free through the end of this fiscal year, June 30, 2021. And anybody who was not a member last year can join for free at the individual level. And we'll have all the benefits of that through June 30, 2021. At the same time, and I can talk about this later with annual appeal, we are asking people if they can support us to please do so. And so just a snapshot of our memberships so far, I mean, the first 4 months of fiscal year 21, we're running, depending on if you look at the last 4 or 5 years, we've brought in about 25 to not quite 50% for the first 4 months compared to the last 4 or 5 years. And there were far fewer memberships coming in at the lower levels, paid memberships at the lower levels. It's being carried by donors who were traditionally at the higher levels. So we're thankful for those people. But we did our budget based on not getting any, and so the fact that we've got some is really tickling us.
Kristina?
Yeah, I was going to say, sort of along with Doug, it's a little bit different for us in terms of the membership program. Our numbers are about the same, a little bit lower in terms of what we bring in annually through membership. But because we're a public university, we don't charge admission, and we don't charge for our programs. So we don't really have the earned revenue stream that other institutions might have. However, what we wanted to focus on in terms of getting people to give philanthropically and renew their memberships was really more of a plan on donor relations. And during this time, keeping in touch with people, communicating, and my board was involved in sending handwritten personalized notes to over 200 people, sort of checking in, how are they doing, if they could support us. And so I just want to show you because it's so adorable. So we put together a postcard of a work from our collection. And again, every board member wrote, which can be it can be a challenge to get them to do that and the logistics for it. But again, the focus really for us is on cultivating and maintaining those relationships when we can't be together physically.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I have so many questions. We don't have a ton of time for all of us to talk. We're actually meant to be going to breakout rooms right now, but I'm gonna extend our chat for just a little bit longer and ask my panelists to be slightly more succinct, if possible. Dawn, anything you want to say about membership?
I'll be succinct. I will echo everything Pilar said. Communication, I think we had more communication with our members. Our membership levels were steady. And I think as far as value proposition, isn't everyone doing like more virtual or more, even if it replaced in person, it's more, it's still more. So that's how I would say you have increased the value of membership. Because, I mean, did anyone else start a YouTube channel? We did. I mean, we didn't have one before. So we have all this online content now. And you know, are you using this phrase? Because you should be. You can watch this lecture from the comfort of your own couch, you know, or kick back with your wine or whatever. So that's our new value proposition for membership. Stay at home and enjoy.
There you go, more bang for your buck. Great. I'm going to transition us to events. I know here we had to put everything on Zoom, everything that we could, and due to the flooding of the market of, you know, it's crazy, these people, board members who are like, well, just charge all, you know, you'll get all your money. People aren't going to pay for that sort of thing. So it's all of a suggested donation. I'm curious to know, and if anybody else wants to chime in, success rate on suggested donations. You know, I would always put $10 suggested donation, help us offset blah, 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 blah. And, you know, people do it. The people do, they hit the $10. Some people do $25. But that's, it's kind of interesting to me, because if membership is only $50, but people pay $25 for a program, who can get into the mind of a donor? Curious to know how everyone has pivoted to their events. And I'm going to start with Dawn, because you went last.
So we did run a virtual event. We canceled our in-person event in June. We were going to switch to virtual then, but we were still in the June climate. We're like, how can we do an auction when we can't ask all those people to donate when they don't have jobs. So nothing about our June event worked. We couldn't just transpose it and say, well, we can still do the auction, or we could still do this. We just weren't ready because we just hadn't figured it out. So instead we ran our second annual Mystery at the Mansion, which is kind of like a murder mystery in our historic house. Made it virtual, filmed it all. It's now available on YouTube. What I've done is on the resource list that we have linked in our chat, I've been collecting other virtual galas and events, and there's links to them there if you want to check out other people's events. It was not really a hugely successful fundraiser because the ticket was only $15. We really made more money off of the sponsors and the sponsors, period. The sponsors were about $2,500 of the money, and I think we got about $1,000 in ticket fees. I will say, look at how the Mattatuck is done there. Mattatuck Museum in Connecticut has had some success with their virtual events, which sound very cool. Escape rooms, murder mysteries, and I think they're getting a few thousand per event. So if anyone attended the Monday fundraising session, I would, if you attended it, they had some really great tips about events. I would go watch that segment if you didn't see it, because they had also a lot of cautions about events. You know, Zoom overload, you need to be special, you need to stand out. If you're having an auction, it has to be different than what you normally do. They had a lot of great tips, so a shout out to them, and I will turn it over to one of my panelists.
Great, that's a great tip. That saves us a little bit of time right now. Pilar.
Sure, so as mentioned earlier, we did have our event. It's called, our signature event is called Taste the Gables, where we have restaurants that are involved, and on a non-COVID year, we have about 20 to 25 vendors, and they are giving out their specialties, whether it's something from distilleries, cideries, and then just wonderful fine dining restaurants, as well as desserts and that sort of thing. So we wanted to keep that essence, because that sort of is a special event for us and different from other events. So we ended up, again, we went virtual. The whole idea was, are we going to continue this? We went back and forth. Do we do a no-show ball? Do we try to do something virtual? So it was a lot of back and forth. In the interest of time, I'll streamline it though, to say that I have a lot on the resource page. So you'll see we ended up with doing a video, which I mentioned earlier. We had our executive director, who's actually on this panel now, who's here. So she did sort of a nice appeal to those attending. We had our board president speak and really showcase what we were doing at the site, even during these tough times, and how we were moving the mission forward. We partnered with about 7 restaurants. In years past, they have completely donated their food to the event and their time. This year, we actually had people they bought tickets. Tickets were usually $100 to $125. This year, it was more $20 to $30. But we sold a good amount of tickets. We sold about 181 tickets. So that was great. People could then order their dinner. So I worked out with these restaurants to create a price fixed meal option that people would then go and pick up their meal. So we tried to do it in Salem, but Beverly and Marblehead, where we knew that our participants would live and where it would be convenient. And it surprisingly worked out really well. The restaurants ended up giving us a percentage of each dinner that was sold. So we did make a little money that way. We had an online auction. Like Don said, we didn't do a lot of solicitation. We wanted to focus on experiences. So we hit our board members up for a lot of things, like a sale on a yacht. There was one getaway. So we tried to do some and really focus on the Gables. So like a dinner at the house and served by the board, things like that. So we tried to be creative with what we could. So we had 9 items and that went well. We did a fund need that was online and the video. So it was a lot of moving parts and very complicated. So moving forward, I would say streamline your efforts. And if you have help, that is great. But it was very successful. We ended up making around $85,000 for this event.
Good numbers. Do you have a sense of what is motivating your donors right now? Besides they just
or for everybody.
I'm asking you because you just spoke, but anybody chime in.
I would say honestly, we have a lot of community involvement. I think there's a lot of people we're seeing donors that we've never seen before that are just feeling really generous. There was one woman this year that was just sending relatively large checks to a bunch of museums because she knew that they were suffering. I think it's so interesting. There's been so much focus on restaurants, but museums are in the same boat. So, so I think people they're starting to feel that. Our message has been help us keep the doors open. So it's been, help us keep the lights on, help us keep our staff intact. So it's been pretty dire, and we have made no bones about that. So
it's interesting to think about what is our, what value are you putting forward right now? And when the pandemic first hit, like one thing that we could do as a historical organization is say, well, here's what Cambridge did in the last pandemic, and it's just like all of a sudden, oh, people understand that history has value because it's comforting and it's telling us something, and we're looking to it when we're grasping for straws. And it's just so funny how we can be able to say, how the first thing you did was Google 1918 pandemic, like give me money and I'll help you understand stuff. Mindful of the time, if any of my panelists want to jump in with any quick thoughts on events, you're free to do so. Kristina, Doug, anything?
I can be quick. So we have been mindful of all the Zoom burnout and whatnot, and we're focusing on fewer events, but making them more quality. So we're also looking to do collaborations. So, for example, working with the Global Affairs department on campus, they have a global lecture series, and so we talk about how can we do things without having to create a lecture series ourselves. How can we dovetail with that? So, for example, bringing back an alum who is active in the art world or in the global, talk about the global auction market, something like that. This appeals to students, and so getting the museum out there in that way. Looking at, for example, streaming, a screening of Ai Weiwei's Human Flow. If any of you have seen that, we own the rights to show that on campus, and so looking at the possibility of that. We're also our signature event every year is the purchase party. The friends, we take their dues, and that 4/5 that I talked about of the dues, they get to vote on what they on what gift they'll use that money to give to the museum, and so we put forth three works. Curators have the sort of duel, battle over it, and try to convince the crowd to vote for their object. So the friends decided they really didn't want to forsake that event, so we're doing that in early December. You're all invited. Again, I've talked about this being everything's free, so we're saying, okay, you can come to this for free. Normally it would be $25 or $40 event, but everyone can come for free, and of course that gives me a chance to mine all those email addresses. And anybody who comes to the purchase party, who registers for the purchase party, we automatically extend to them an individual membership for free through the end of 2021, and that gives me the opportunity to appeal to them later. Anyway, so I'll put a link to the blog post about that in the chat, but yeah, we're doing a few events.
Cool. Kristina, anything you want to add?
Not so much to add, but just really a question, and I'm hoping to hear from participants when we go into the breakout room, is I'd like to know how people are leveraging one of the most important assets that we have right now, is that's the opportunity to spend time together outside. So if you have grounds, maybe that's something that we can talk about in the chat, because I know many of you have beautiful properties, and how you might be, I hate to say it, monetizing or maybe directing stewardship to maintaining them. I'd be really interested to hear that.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm making an executive decision that we're going to talk about annual appeal, and then we're going to go to our breakout rooms and be very quick. But I think annual appeal is important because earlier in the year, we didn't want to ask for money. We were being sensitive. We were being respectful. Now it's end of year. The election's over. We're focusing, eye on the prize, light at the end of the tunnel. Vaccine is coming. Thank you, Cambridge. So we're going to see what happens. How is everybody doing with their end of year appeal? Where's your thinking at? Dawn.
We're ahead of last year. I think I write a really good letter, honestly. So write a really good letter. We segmented more this year, like Pilar. We have members that have never given. We have seen members that have never given give. We have seen people that have not given in years give. So all of my news is rosy and wonderful. I don't think it was my letter alone. I think it was the disposition of our donors. So segmentation, good messaging. We're definitely doing an end of the year push, like for the tax reasons. That's always a busy time for us. And I think we might exceed goal, but I don't want to jinx it. So I'm knocking on wood. I don't know that I have much more to add, except that communication, we're also now calling more throughout the year to thank people for gifts and then ask them to give again this year. So we had saved it till the end of our fiscal, and then you end up with like 100 calls to make. Now we're taking the 25 this quarter, 25 the next quarter. And of course, board, it's when they can help, it's always a great partnership.
I have questions for you. Are you saying literal, you make phone calls?
Yes. So I had 28 people on my LIBUN, that term last year, but not this year list. So we're calling LIBUNs and saying, hi, thanks so much for your gift. It came in last year and, yeah, things are great here. We're all working really hard. Da, 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 da. Can you give again this year?
What percentage of voicemails do you get when you call people?
I get 95%, 99% voicemails. I leave a message anyway. That was a question I had for my own peers. It's like, do you leave a message? Do you not? And we decided to leave a message. I don't get calls back.
Kara has a question.
Yeah. Can I ask what you're saying in your message? Like, are you saying all of those things that you would say, are you just saying, hi, it's Dawn from, the museum. Can you please give me a call when you have a chance? Like, how detailed do you go in your message?
I mentioned Dawn from the RJD. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm calling to thank you for your previous annual appeal gift. And then I usually make a pitch immediately because it's voicemail. You don't know if you're going to get it cut off right away. So I just say, hoping you can make a gift again this year. We've got great things going on and always interested to hear from you. give us a call, you know, and I usually cut it off there, something like that.
But Dawn, have you measured the success on that? Have you gotten those gifts so far for those you've called?
Have not measured it. I can't say I've measured phone calls versus no phone calls.
I'm not done with you, Dawn. What do you credit a good letter? Like, what are you tossing in? So I went to a writing session once about annual appeal letters, and the best advice I received was, do not start with the words "on behalf of." Start with a short, compelling sentence, because that's what people read first. So that's my tip that I use. You're welcome. Dawn, what are your writing tips for your excellent letters?
I like the idea of repetition. I am always very conscious of my opener. So I think the last one of the lie buns was like something like, you know, I love getting mail at home. You know, don't you? Isn't getting a letter wonderful? Does it give you an image of the person that's just sent you that letter? Well, let me give you an image of the RJD at this moment. You know, that was my opener. It was better written than that though. But I like the idea of repetition. So if you almost like a slogan, if you pick out something, you know, and for our first letter in the appeal, it was something like, we gave the AAM statistic, which is a little grim. 30% of museums may close due to the pandemic. And then I launched into, what would you miss if the RJD were not here? Would you miss, and then I listed all the wonderful things we offer. Value added, value added. Would you miss the gardens? Would you miss this? So I like the repetition. I like stating value. I change it up every time. I don't always use, you know, I don't cut and paste every year of, well, 35% of our income comes from this annual appeal. I shake it up a bit. So that's your messaging. Excellent. Thank you. It raised for me, like, we've had a lot of discussion internally here, like, when do we, you know, when is it appropriate to give those grim statistics? Right, and say we're desperate versus no, we're doing all right. Come, join us again. You know, what is the right message to give people? So I'm curious if any folks here have gone grim, and if that has had any effect. Pilar, do you want to say anything?
I think we've gone a little grim, and I think it's been helping because, you know, I think people want to know what's happening. They don't want to know that you're okay if you're not. So, and people like to be asked to help. So if they know that those dollars are going to actually help you keep the doors open, they're likely to help you. They're going to support you over someone who's like, I'm doing fine. We've accomplished all of this. You want to also highlight your accomplishment, but at the same time, I don't think you want to hide where you are. Like I'm actually putting in my letter how much we're on track to lose. Which is pretty significant.
Yeah. But make your donor a hero. That's what you always hear, right? Kristina.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that in the chat, there's the link to the resource page. And in that resources, there are some advantageous charitable giving charitable giving, I guess, sort of allowances this tax year. So if you're sending out a reminder, you might want to take a look at some of those provisions. And that's something that, you know, you could speak to your institution's attorney with about how you want to phrase that. But just as a reminder to say that it's not too late to take advantage of these provisions. You may want to consider it as part of your annual giving plan.
Quick poll for everyone I can see. How many people use a PS on their annual appeal letters? Just a handful. Yeah, okay, all right. I find them annoying. I know we're supposed to use them, but you know, couldn't go
I
either.
actually have a quick poll too. How many people's letters are more than one page?
Ooh, that is a good question. Dawn? Excellent letter, Dawn. No?
No, I never go over a page.
Well, the longer your letter, the more funds you get. So we've actually already always done one letter. So we're trying to, one page. So we're trying 2 pages this year. I'll report back.
That's so interesting. Yeah. All right. Please report back. I'm very curious about that.
We segmented ours this year rather than doing ours was entirely virtual. And we teamed with the advancement folks on campus, and we we put together a bifurcated email program to, and we changed the script. So one email went to people who were friends last year, and another email went to people who essentially were lapsed members. And so we changed the wording for each, so it was more targeted, but. It gave us a chance not to, because typically our letter has been a page to a page and a quarter. But with email, it's harder to judge how long it is. So I think you can get away with a bit more there.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't report yet on how well that's done. It didn't go out that long ago, so I still don't have the returns from that to report yet. But
okay, everybody needs to like measure all this stuff they're doing, because next year we're gonna want full reports on everyone and get all your tips. Here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna go to our breakout rooms now as promised. What's going to happen in the breakout rooms? Theoretically, one of each panelists will be in the group, and we're going to be facilitating it. The goal when we go to breakout groups is we can talk a little bit about what you've done, but maybe let's talk about what you're planning to do. And if you need help, we're going to troubleshoot with you, whatever you want to talk about. And because we're writing notes, somebody from each group will be assigned the scribe, and they're going to write the notes in the shared Google Doc. I'm hoping that we can keep our breakout session a little bit longer and cut our third and final section of this session a little shorter, because we won't have to do so much reporting out because it's all going to be in the document. Can I get my fellow panelists to agree to that on the fly decision?
Sure.
Everyone's cool. We're all cool. We're dealing with what we can here.
Marieke, could you just give us a time frame though? Because we're off agenda. So
I think let's try to reconvene back at like noon.
Okay.
Is that cool?
Sure.
If everybody needs to like go to the bathroom and get a drink of water, you're totally fine. You can do that. But I hope that we're going to see you in the breakout rooms. I know as soon as breakout rooms happen, everyone's like, yeah, but please join us. It's going to be fun. We're going to learn a lot from each other. And here we go. Goodbye.
Oh, Gary,
How do I go to the breakout room?
There should have been a button that said,
right there.
There you go.
Oh, so I was invited, but what if I don't want to go to the one that I was invited to? If I want to go to another one.
Did you want to go to Pilar's?
No, I actually want to go to the annual appeal.
I think everybody's discussing everything in the breakouts, I think.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Hi, Eric and Carol. You've been invited to a breakout room. Feel free to join it. The breakout rooms are going to be happening until noon, so please click the join button. Hi, Carol. You've been invited to a breakout room with Doug. Please join it. Oh, hey, Emma. Did yours boot you out? Oh, you're on mute right now. Hold on. I'll send you to... There we go. I can't hear you. Sorry, you're on mute.
I'm on it on my phone, but I lost all my controls, so I'm muted and the video's off and I have no controls on my phone. So can you put me back in Dawn's room? Because I can hear them, but like...
Yep. Okay, I just sent you. Did it work? No, it's okay. Hi, Carol. You're invited to a breakout room with Doug. Please click the join button. Thanks. Nope. Hi, Sarah. Were you just in a room? Welcome back.
Hello. Are other people coming back too?
Yes, everybody has about another 30 seconds.
Oh, good. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. We made it back. We're still making it back. That was fun. That wasn't so scary, was it? That all worked out. I had a delightful group. I'm sure you did too.
I did too. Delightful.
Yeah.
Helpful.
Everybody's still coming back. So I feel like, as usual, we could have kept chatting for a long time. So many interesting ideas. And somebody says, well, I have a question about this. And then everybody has lots of helpful things to say. So that is the spirit of NEMA that we do want to foster and continue. But I'm not even sure I see the rest of our group.
I think everybody should be back now.
Everybody's back. We're all just in different spots now. Okay.
We're all mixed up.
Thanks to all the scribes who are taking notes. I'm not looking at the document. I'm sure it's rich and robust, but I'm going to call on my fellow panelists to just say anything interesting or anything they want to highlight that came out of their small breakout rooms. So I'm going to ask Dawn, can you go first?
Sure. I didn't type my things into the document, but I will. Just some couple of cool ideas, online, virtual ideas. Trivia night. So Bennington Museum is doing it. Call them if you want to learn more about how they're doing trivia night. An annual meeting, which was virtual, but had a cocktail mixing element where a chef appeared, made the cocktail online. People were at home mixing the cocktail, I assume drinking the cocktail. And that is one way to report, your year in review. I'll stop there.
Great. Thanks. Pilar?
Yeah, sure. A lot of great ideas. I will say Annie from Framingham, and I think don't want to say the wrong institution, but was saying that one of the things with programs, they had luck with packaging virtual programs. So doing like 6 virtual programs for $25, and that seemed to be working really well for them. I'll also mention that Chuck from Castle in the Clouds was saying that they have done incredible with raising money for their annual appeal. They have been calling, they've had board members who have been, really focused on their closest friends, 6 people per maybe, and just really trying to mobilize people to give, and that has helped tremendously. Some of the concerns for 2021 are, okay, so we've actually done okay this year and we've gotten some funds. What are we going to do for 2021? How can we message that we still need help? It's not sort of one and done. It's a long recovery process. So those were some of the things that came up in my group.
Cool. Great. Thanks, everybody. Kristina?
Sure. So a couple of things came out, sort of more of just observations, which was the expansion of audience and really thinking about, one, the ability to target certain demographics and segment your audience, but also the reach that your virtual content may have beyond just your immediate locale, and thinking sort of nationally and perhaps even internationally. I think that then leads for a question about, what are you investing in marketing? You've developed this really wonderful program. You may want to think about, changing those line items and really kind of marketing the great work that you're doing. We also talked about, in terms of partnerships, how are you partnering with other organizations and businesses in your community? Megan, who's at Hilldale in Connecticut, opened their 152-acre estate to create a performing arts series, which I thought was really admirable considering how performing arts have taken a hit during this period. And partnering with other arts organizations also gave them the opportunity to have some exclusive events for their higher level donors. So that's something that you may also want to think about as you're planning your activities. And then lastly, we also discussed, you know, what is it that you're offering donors, whether it's individuals or corporate sponsors, and really thinking about what they value and what you value, and making sure that you're having those conversations so that you can meet each other where you are.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, you know, in our group, we also talked about segmenting. And then the other thing we talked about was how to have people give money out of doors when people are walking the grounds. And we talked about dip jar and the pros and cons of various technologies. So it's interesting that I have to say I'm jealous of you folks with landscapes. Thank you for what you do. And I am jealous for your space as someone in a very highly dense city where I barely have my own backyard. So I'm sure it presents its own challenges, but I'm glad to see that everyone's being very clever with their use of space. Doug, are you there, friend?
I am here, as always. So I'm not going to reiterate everything. You can go to the doc for that, but some of the things that jumped out at me, a concerted effort to focus on multi-year pledges when you're talking to donors, trying to lock in some of that funding for years to come, and specifically with using new languages, new word, exciting and upbeat tone. Collaborating with organizations who can offer some version of an outdoor facility and one that can mitigate the weather, so that just as a way of stabilizing your planning a little bit. Sharing collection content for the first time through social media, and that has proven to bring an increased likelihood in supporting an organization and lots of additional engagement. A huge, I think one person said 600% increase in digital engagement through social media when doing that. Learning about what your audience likes and doesn't like. You know, apparently in this pandemic, a lot of people are being more honest about the fact that they don't like certain kinds of events. And so taking that and running with it and learning how to pivot in the future to present what people do want. And really a big focus on how to keep your current digital efforts sustainable as you go forward. I mean, I think we're all doing a lot in this time to get in front of people on Zoom, for example, or on your website and whatnot, and making sure that what you're doing is. I mean, I know my staff, and if any of them are here, I know my staff. They're knocking themselves out. We all are, and I hear regularly from my staff that they're not sleeping or that they're doing, they're working all weekend. But focusing on how you can continue to do what you do in a sane fashion going forward. So that's important.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug. So we have limited time. As we know, we're going to get cut off mercilessly when our time comes. But if anybody wants to just pop in the various communication boxes, the Q&A or the chat, anything that sort of stuck out with you, things that you're going to try, anything that's inspired you, or any other last thoughts or comments, Kristina's going to check that out for us, and she'll relay that to us. And while you're thinking and writing, I'm just going to say the takeaways that I got from this session. Communicate, always, often, sincerely. Segment. Think long term. We're in this for the long haul, and we got through this year. How are we going to get through next year? Steal ideas. Always good. Embrace the cold weather, especially those of us with outdoor spaces. I mean, surely like Minnesota has like a rule book that we can follow on how to do outdoor events. I don't know if we have any, the Canadians, they do good stuff. Let's copy them. And finally, to Doug's point, take care of yourself this year. It's been very hard. It's going to get harder. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Take care of yourselves. Kristina, anything that we want to talk about per the chat, if anybody wants to raise their hands too.
People are just referencing the resource document. I think we've posted that link a few times. just a reminder. So that's pretty much nothing in there. I think we covered a lot of ground.
I know that this was a lot of stuff that we talked about and perhaps too ambitious, but that's okay. I think that we're doing what we can and we want to be ambitious. I would love at any time in the chat or in 2 months to tell us what you want to talk about next year. If this format, you know, we did this format last year where we did a lot of just brainstorming and tossing out ideas, and we really enjoyed it, and we hope you did too. So that's kind of the goal of these kinds of sessions. Let us know if they're working for you, or if you want more of a deep dive into something fundraising wise, all that would be helpful, or you know, make your own session. I'll come. Doug, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to highlight really quick, Jessica, who was in my group at the very end of the group as we were mercilessly kicked out of the breakouts, was talking about this high fidelity, which is, and I won't do it justice. She's put the link in the highfidelity.com in the chat, but Jessica, if you feel like you want to tell the whole group about that, it sounded pretty cool. Feel free to unmute or not, no pressure.
Oh, I don't have too much to share other than I was a participant at a conference last week, and one of the sessions was a casual meet and greet, wander around in this high fidelity sponsored virtual space, and it allowed people to find each other. I connected with a colleague I hadn't seen in 3 or 4 years in that casual serendipitous way, and I was saying that it was something we were now wondering, you know, could we bring this into our student orientations or other more casual events where you don't feel so structured into your Zoom box, or your not breakout rooms are amazing, I use them all the time, but this was a more organic, and looking at some of those tools could be, you know, interesting ways to think about continuing to create the casual engagement around our virtual events, or to take some of the formality of Zoom off for folks. But that just, I only was a participant. I don't really know much about it, but it seemed pretty cool. So
cool.
I would love for us to be able to get back together next year to sort of hear what people took away and how they applied it and what they're keeping and what they're not. So you're all invited.
Yeah.
I'd like to know, can we save the document that we created here, or can we bring it into our own Google Drive? Is there a way to do
I will say actually,
does anybody know?
so it's the whoever started the breakout rooms actually overwrote the original resource document. So if anybody's comfortable with how to recover a previous edit, you might want to do a little work on it before it kind of gets locked in for the group.
Sounds like we have some technical stuff we're going to work on the back end. So I appreciate everybody. This has been super interesting, short, but it's been so fun to see all your faces and meet some new folks. So you're all doing amazing work, and you know that you are. Keep doing it. Thank you for your efforts, for your cities, your states, for the field. And I do want to give a closing thanks and appreciation to Scarlett for her amazing work on behalf of all New England museums every day of her life. So thank you. And to all of you, thank you. And we're going to see you later. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. It was great to hear from you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.